Hello there, Kyle Katarn here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars Last Shot by Daniel Jose Older. Last Shot stars Han Solo and Lando Calrissian and follows their adventures as they try to stop a madman from activating a mysterious device known only as the Phalanx Redux Transmitter. So most of the story takes place 3 years after Return of the Jedi, and we get a fascinating glimpse into the lives of these two men during peacetime. Han is struggling with learning how to be a father to young Ben Solo, and the passages with both of them are both sweet and a little ominous, for obvious reasons. While Lando is struggling with the feelings he has for his Twilight girlfriend Kasha, realizing that as he grows older he's becoming less interested in being a player and starting to have thoughts of settling down. But the story also frequently jumps back to 10 years before the original trilogy, in two separate timelines, both 5 years before and about 5 years after the Solo movie, give or take. Confused? I was too. One thing that the book does really well is it paints a picture of Han and Lando as their younger selves in the earlier timeline, and really illustrates the differences between them as we see them here versus the characters we've grown familiar with in the original trilogy. I think it's fair to say this is a pretty good example of what we'll be seeing personality-wise for Han and Lando on the screen in Solo in just a few weeks. So the structure was a bit difficult to follow, and the story itself was maybe a little more convoluted than necessary, but I did really enjoy the smaller moments of dialogue between the main characters, and the interactions in general felt really authentic. One thing's for sure, Alder definitely knows how to write good dialogue for Han and Lando. There's even a great moment where Han and Lando discuss what happened on the Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back, which was a lot of fun to read. Sana Starros features pretty prominently in the earlier timeline of the book. Turns out she works for the droid Gatra, and she was the one that recruited Han and Chewie for the mission to originally steal the Phalanx. Alder has given her a bit of a personality makeover, and I have to say, it's a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. She comes across much more likable and easier to follow than she did in the Marvel Star Wars comics. Challenging identity and personal growth are two themes that are very prevalent in this book. There's an assertive Gungan that rejects a Jar Jar stereotype, an Ewok character who's a slicer and generally rejects the notion that Ewoks are primitive. Not to mention the main plot of the book is propelled forward by Han and Lando's mistakes in their youth that they then have to atone for in their later lives. The Phalanx Redux Transmitter was a pretty cool concept. I was pretty relieved to find out that it was not a superweapon, but in fact a medical droid that had been slowly modified over time and essentially Frankensteined into a weaponized transmitter, just floating through space sending out murder signals. Pretty metal. So a couple moments that I really liked. At one point Han Solo approaches a Gungan and starts off saying, "Hello, Misa." The Gungan's like, "Let me stop you right there, pal," and basically schools him on stereotypes. It's pretty good. Lando has a very entertaining, filthy inner monologue every time there's an attractive woman in the room. A lot of fun to read that. There's one point where Lando is flirting. He gets the right signals, and in his head he says, "All right, we have docking clearance." I had to set the book down for a minute because I was laughing so hard. It's like, are you kidding me? As Star Wars novels go, this one is probably the most sexed up that I've read. It was very appropriate though, considering that it's Han and Lando's perspectives we're mostly getting for the story. Lando's obsession with fashion and clothing is even more extreme when he's younger, leading to some pretty entertaining passages. So here's a couple of references I caught to the greater Star Wars universe. In the first chapter there's mention of Ecclesias Fig, the legendary human explorer who founded Cloud City in Legends, now made canon by this book. The droid taking care of young Ben Solo is actually the same T2LZ droid from Aftermath's Empire's End. At one point, Han painfully steps on one of Ben's toys, which are described as Cambi blocks. I'm pretty sure that's space Legos. And there's a possible cameo by Hazram Namir, the main character of Battlefront Twilight Company by Alexander Freed. Lando sits down and shares a flask with a grizzled old veteran of the Battle of Hoth. They never say his name, but I believe it's Namir. Kasha at one point mentions the Free Ryloth movement, which was first introduced in the Lords of the Sith. Condor Kyle from Aftermath makes a brief appearance, helping the crew along the way. And Han refers to being a serviceman on Minban, which confirms a couple things that we've seen in the trailers and also sheds light on whether or not he was there undercover or not. It sounds like he was legitimately with the Imperial Army. Han also mentions that the forests of Kashyyyk are making a nice comeback after the devastation wrought in Aftermath Life Debt when he frees the planet with Chewbacca. In this book, we are introduced to a Forosnag, which is a new kind of creature that is able to eat laser fire. We've never seen anything like it in Star Wars, and it doesn't have much of a physical description, although in my mind's eye I imagined it looking something like a slog from Oddworld. I'm not sure why, I just did. We learn that the New Republic is using KX series droids after the war. It makes sense, after all Cassian was able to reprogram it so easily, I'm sure he spread that knowledge around. The droid Gatra makes an appearance, originally seen in the Tarkin novel and the Aphra and Vader comics. I would say that this is really not required reading before you go see Solo. Catalyst provided a huge amount of context for Rogue One, but that's not really the case here. The only thing directly related to the film that may be relevant here, besides Han and Lando's younger personalities, would be L3, who's barely in the book. The story is fast-paced, fun, a little bit dirty, a little hard to follow at times, but overall I had a really good time reading. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to check out the rest of my channel for more awesome Star Wars content. Leave me a comment if you've got a question or something to say, and as always, may the Force be with you.